Greetings, friends. David Marks here. I'm going to teach you how to level out a slanted horizon and how to make your buildings stand up nice and straight using the Transform panel inside of Adobe Photoshop Lightroom Classic. Removing these common flaws is super easy, so let's jump right into my catalog and let's get started. On the screen right now is a photo that I captured one evening just outside of Redwood National Park. There's a lot about this photo that I like, but when I shot this one, I made a terrible mistake. In my haste to capture this scene, I failed to make sure that my tripod was nice and level. Because my camera was slanted when I clicked the trigger, the ocean here has a strong tilt to the right. If it helps, I can make the tilted horizon even more obvious by creating a guideline using the View Loop Overlay Guides command. When I turn this on, two white guidelines will appear over top of my image. To move these lines around, I need to hold down the Command key on my keyboard. That's the Command key on a Mac and the Control key on a PC. With Command held down, I can drag this intersection point where the lines cross, and I can set my horizontal line here so that you can compare the horizon line in my image to this perfectly straight guideline. Now that you can really see the tilt, let's fix it. To do that, I need to open up the lens correction panel, and then I need to enable Lightroom's amazing lens profile correction feature. Out of habit, I'm also going to enable the remove chromatic aberration switch too, but that option is totally unrelated to my slanted horizon problem. Next, I'm going to open up the Transform panel. And finally, I'm going to tap on the Level button. Bam! Let me zoom out. And now, I'll turn the Transform panel on and off a few times so you can see a before and after. Here, we have a tilted horizon. And after a one-click repair using Lightroom's level algorithm, we get this. That was too easy. So let me turn those guidelines off. And now let's hop over to another example. This time, the problem is that my buildings appear to be falling over. Fortunately, the solution again is super easy. Just like last time, I'll start in the lens correction panel and enable the profile corrections option. By the way, if the lens correction panel is a mystery for you, then I have a complete tutorial elsewhere on this one that you might find helpful. Once my lens correction is active though, I can move down to the Transform panel, but this time I'm going to tap on the vertical button. When I used the level command on the last image, I was telling Lightroom to look for a slanted horizon. When I tap on the vertical button instead, I'm asking the program to look for tilts along the vertical rather than the horizontal axis, and to try to fix those tilts for me. Again, improving this image is a piece of cake, but this tutorial would be incomplete if I told you that these algorithmic buttons, all the ones here under the word upright at the top of the panel, always work, and that there's nothing else that you might need to do. This time, I have another sunset and another failure to make sure that my tripod was set up right before I clicked the shutter. I've included this example because when I follow the same steps that we used on the last two photos, and then I tap on the level button, this time Lightroom's algorithm overcorrects this photo. Just in case you need an on-screen reference, let me use that View Loop Overlay Guides tool again. I'm going to place my guideline right here across the base of that big C stack. Let me turn the Transform panel on and off a few times so you can see a before and after. Before, tilted to the left. After, tilted to the right. Well, let's reset things and try it again. To turn the Level command, the button that I clicked a second ago off, I could tap on the Off button right here. Off works, but my favorite way to undo a mistake here is to hold down the Alt key on my keyboard. With the Alt, that's the Alt Option key on a Mac held down, a hidden Reset Upright button appears at the top of the panel. I'll tap this button, and now we're back to where we started. When you run into an image where Lightroom's level or vertical straightening algorithms fail, Then you can move the appropriate sliders down here in the Transform section of this panel yourself. In this case, rotating this image about 2 degrees makes the horizon nice and level. Rotating things this way fixes my slanted horizon, but it also creates another small problem. Whenever you use any of the tools in this panel, you are warping or twisting your image. That warping or bending means that your image, after transformation, no longer fills its original rectangle. The white space that you can see along the edges of our frame here is Lightroom's way of telling us that to make this image rectangular again, that we need to crop away that empty space. One way of adding that crop is to tap on the Constrain Crop button that lives down beneath all the other transform controls. On this image, adding a crop like this works, but if I slide over to our next image, then things get a little more complicated. The problem here is that the amount of vertical repair that this slanted image needs drives the steeple on top of the lighthouse right out of the frame. Turning on the Constrain Crop button crops this image back into a rectangle, but it does nothing to bring that critical detail back. Fortunately, the brilliant minds at Adobe have included another set of sliders that we can turn to when we encounter this situation. I make no promises that these will work with every image, but in this case, I can improve my crop by dragging the Y offset slider around. Moving the offset sliders or the scale and aspect sliders in here can be really helpful when you're repairing images that need a massive amount of correction. This looks better, and my lighthouse is saved, but I must remind you that these repairs have come at a price. If I open up the Crop Overlay tool, look at how much of my original capture I must cut away to straighten up that lighthouse. In this image, I can get away with it, but having to cut anything away in a scene like this pains me. The transformation and the crop that it takes to save this image is costing me thousands of pretty pixels. When I teach photo workshops, one of the lessons that I try to emphasize in all of my lectures is that we, as photographers, own every inch of our frame. If I had taken 1 extra minute to level my camera out before I shot this image, or if I had done that with any of the other lousy examples in this tutorial, then I would not have needed to use the transform tools or to crop anything away. Each of these repairs has reduced the quantity of pixels that I have in my final image. That's the moral that I want to leave you with here. Lightroom's transform tools are great. These tools are worth learning, but we want to use this feature as rarely and as sparingly as possible. If you take the time to do things right with your camera, then you can avoid transformation and having to make sacrifices like these when you get home. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you learned something today, then please hit the subscribe button and leave us a like or a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next tutorial.